To the top story, the Ukraine-Russia conflict. Mr. Ashok Sajjanhar joins us. Mr. Sajjanhar is a former Indian ambassador to Kazakhstan, Sweden and Latvia. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, first off, if I may ask you, Putin says either reach an agreement or resolve it by force. This is what we will strive for. This is what he says. What is Putin implying, and is he in it for the long haul?
Yes, that is what it appears, Ramesh, that he is in it for the long haul. You know, these are the objectives that he had mentioned: denazification and demilitarization of Ukraine. Now, over the last 2 years, it's going to be 2 years next February.
Right.
You know, the conflict has been going on, and there have been a number of ups and downs. We saw also, you know, last year a counteroffensive by Ukraine, which was successful to some extent. But then we have seen that the counteroffensive earlier this year, that has stalled, that has come to a stalemate. So at the moment, it definitely appears advantage Russia. So I think he is using this particular opportunity that now we have, and Putin has also seen that there is disarray in the ranks of countries which have been supporting Ukraine, whether it is the United States or it is Europe. The unity definitely is not as much as it used to be there. And also we have seen that, you know, the Israel-Hamas conflict has taken eyeballs of the global community of Russia-Ukraine conflict and moved elsewhere. So I think what he's saying is that I have all the time with me. He knows that the United States is going to go in for election next year, so there is not going to be much stomach for focusing on the Russia-Ukraine conflict.
Indeed, it's advantage Russia, says Ambassador Sajjanhar. Ambassador, which brings me to the next question to you. Can Ukraine sustain a long war?
Well, it is going to be difficult, but, you know, we've seen what Mr. Biden has said. He told President Zelensky when he was in Washington just 2 days ago. And he has said that America will continue to stand along with Ukraine. He is pushing for this $100 billion approval from the Congress. Of course, that is takes care not only of the support to Ukraine, but also to Israel. And the Republicans are asking that there should be some provision for border management with Mexico. So we'll really have to wait and see how that comes out. President Biden has signed on $200 million of equipment to Ukraine during President Zelensky's visit. But we'll really have to see as to how far the support from the United States will continue. And I think it'll have to come to a stop sometime or the other in the coming months. And also from Europe, we have seen, although we saw that today decision has been taken by the European Union that they are going to commence negotiations with Ukraine on its membership of the European Union, of membership of EU. But as far as the support in concrete terms and military terms, again, there are some question marks, because we've seen over the last few months there have been dissensions between Ukraine and Poland and some of the other countries. We know that Hungary and some others are opposed to Ukraine, opposed to supporting Ukraine against Russia. So there also the support that existed in the first few months or the first year after the attack on Ukraine by Russia, that has been coming down. And I think equally importantly, if not more so, what I find is that in terms of manpower, in terms of human resources, in terms of soldiers, that also is lacking as far as Ukraine is concerned. So I think Ukraine really does seem to be having its back to the wall, but the manner in which it has been able to sustain itself, Ramesh, for the last more than 1 year, 9 months or something, I think that is very commendable, very creditable, and they could still bring out their reserves and resources to stand up against Ukraine, against Russia, because otherwise, if they don't stand up, then it's the end of the road for
absolutely
Ukraine's existence as such.
Ambassador, you made a number of interesting and important observations in your intervention that you spoke about Western unity, you spoke about the impact or likely impact of EU's accession talks with Ukraine. I'll come to that in just a bit. But let me start with Western unity. What do you make of the US's and EU's reluctance, some call it inability, to fund Ukraine's war?
You know, Ramesh, I think when the war had started in February of 22 last year, you know, then it was thought, and that is what Mr. Putin also must have thought, that the West will not really be able to continue with its all-out support to Ukraine for a very long time. And particularly, it had thought that once the winter comes and the energy prices start rising, that is when, you know, this whole issue is going to bite the common people and in Europe and in the United States, and they'll really not be able to continue with this war, the support to Ukraine. But we saw that last winter was comparatively a mild one, and the reserves had been stored up by all the countries, Germany, France, UK, all the countries there, so they were able to withstand that particular pressure. But now, after about 1 year and 9 months, I think it is really the economics of the conflict has really started biting as far as Europe is concerned. Also on the bilateral front, as I mentioned, you know, between Poland and Ukraine, there have been dissensions. Also, some of the other neighboring countries, there have been dissensions with Hungary has never been with Ukraine. And also we've seen, although Serbia is not a part of EU as yet, but that has also been, you know, much more sympathetic towards Russia than it has been towards Ukraine. So I think both as far as Europe is concerned and also Washington, because in Washington there has been the polarization, the very deep polarization between the Republicans and the Democrats. And even as far as some of the Democrats are concerned, because of the position that has been taken by Mr. Biden on the Israel-Hamas conflict and what they see is full support for Hamas.
Right.
Some of the Democrats are also veering away from Mr. Biden. And Republicans, of course, politically and otherwise, because of their economic ideology, they have been opposed to all-out support for Ukraine. So this Western unity, it was, I think it is very commendable and creditable, Ramesh, that it has continued for such a long time.
Indeed, indeed.
For such a long time.
Ambassador, so we've spoken about Western unity or the lack of it. We've spoken about Zelensky's war chest, the funding for the war. I want our viewers to understand something else here. How will Ukraine's EU membership, if and when it happens, affect Russia?
I think this is, you know, I don't think it's going to have much of an impact in the short or the medium term, because membership of the European Union, it's not a security pact. It's not like NATO, that EU will come and start supporting the defense and security of Ukraine. No, it is basically an economic pact, and it will be in terms of economic support that is provided. It will be given a huge market of 27 other countries for its own exports. So I think on the economic front, this will have a much greater impact. But as I said, that's going to take some time. And although there is going to be discussion about Ukraine's NATO membership on the sidelines, but I don't think that's going to be coming up in any great hurry. But to respond to your question, I think it's going to take some time, but basically the idea is that Ukraine should be able to stand on its own feet as a sovereign country and be able to defend itself. That is what the membership of EU will be able to provide on a medium and long-term basis.
Right. I'm afraid I'm completely out of time. I will have to leave it at that. May I thank you, Ambassador Sajjanhar, for joining us and sharing your thoughts and insights with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it. All right, moving on. In some more news here on DD India News Hour, Tesla founder Elon